Hey, it's Robert Clickybeard, the host of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. These podcasts challenge you to grow as a leader, to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, and to 10x your company. I really encourage you to enjoy the show, share it with teammates, fellow business owners, and subscribe. That helps us grow our community. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard. Really excited today to be joined by Jack Jostes. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Robert. Pleasure to be here.
I know we did a podcast, I think it was actually probably last year on your show, and it was a great podcast. I think we had a webinar afterwards, so it was super great to be reconnected again.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me here. That was a fun podcast to do in person at your I can't remember what it was, your annual conference.
Yeah, in your conference. It was the Thought Leader Retreat. This year is going to be in just outside Dallas, July 27th to 29th. So people check that out on the website. But Jack, tell the audience all about you.
Well, my name's Jack Jostes. I run Ramblin Jackson, the snow and landscape marketing agency. So we have over 300 clients throughout the United States. We've been in business for over 17 years. And I got my start in the green industry working at a plant nursery and garden center. That was just a summer job in high school and early college. I started a marketing company in 2009 and was a public speaker. And I got hired to speak at a garden center trade show. And I just shared the story of how I used to work at a plant nursery and garden center. And that resonated with the audience. And I started working with lawn care companies, and one of them had landscaping all over their website. And they said, Jack, I'm getting all these landscaping leads in the spring. What I really want is lawn care. And I said, hey, did you know you have the word landscaping all over your website for your SEO? And they didn't. And so I fixed that problem for them. I started getting referrals to other lawn care landscape companies. It eventually became half of my business. And in 2009, about 10 years ago, I rebranded my whole company to focus on the landscape industry. So I kind of fell into the landscape industry. I didn't realize that my summer job would become a major career impact, but I love the landscape industry. I love sales and marketing. And I'm thrilled to be on the show today.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know you've, taken a little bit of a hiatus recently. Tell us what you've been working on.
So I've been working actually the past couple of years on my third book. And so the title of the book is The Landscaper's Guide to Direct Response Sales and Marketing, How to Get Found Online by Qualified Leads and Turn Them into Hell Yes Customers.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I know I just, I got a couple of chapters from your book, but I'm really excited to get a copy of that and dive into it. So congratulations. So it's been a 2-year project.
Yeah, it's been a 2-year project, and one of the challenges about writing a book about sales and marketing is that stuff keeps changing. And that's actually a key focus of the book. Since I started writing the book, I had to rewrite a lot of it because Google's AI overview came out, and that changed the search engine results drastically. And ChatGPT has taken off, and AI has really changed a lot. And so the book has a lot of current information about what's changed. And Google recently had their Google I/O conference, their big annual conference, and they said it was the biggest shift in 25 years. So part of what took a while was I wrote a previous book, The Tree of Good Fortune, in 2021. And originally I thought I was going to be updating that book, but it turned into a whole new book. And a lot of it is focused on direct response marketing, which is really focused on generating measurable results. Whereas, say, brand awareness advertising is kind of hard to measure for a small business like a landscape company. Like, how many people are aware of your brand is not usually what landscapers want. They want a certain number of leads. They want a specific type of lead. And the book shares what we found works, having worked with literally at this point hundreds of landscape companies.
No, that's good. I'm really super excited to read it. What made you finally sort of sit down and want to write a book? Because we're all busy. Whether it be business stuff, whether it be family stuff, whether it be just our normal sort of hobbies. But what made you sit down and then when you were writing a book, who was that target audience?
Yeah, the target audience of this book is the owner or potentially sales manager of a multi-million-dollar landscape company. So there's content in there that'll help you get to $1 million. But Robert, I really believe that, and I want you to challenge me if you disagree, but I think in landscaping and in many businesses, if you do a lot of the basic stuff of doing a good job, follow up with people, send your invoices on time, you can get to $1 million in revenue through word of mouth, through just hard work and doing a good job. What I've found, though, is that getting past 1.5 million or getting to 2 million and beyond is where landscape companies need a sales system. When they start to get to the point where they don't want the owner to be the only salesperson, they need a selling system, and then they need leads. And that's what my company, Ramblin Jackson, helps people with. So what inspired me to write the book is the same thing that inspired me to write my first book, which is constantly answering the same questions. And in my own business, training my team to be the one who answers those questions. So for me, the book is a resource that helps landscape company owners and my own staff figure out how it works and what order should you go in to get results.
No, I would agree with your challenge to me about challenging you. I feel that a lot of companies do get stuck in that $2, $3, $4 million range, and I agree. Definitely, marketing is that one piece of it, but I think a lot of the blockages center around the owner. The owners maybe not having either marketing, maybe they don't have a system, maybe they don't have the right people in place, and it's very tough for them to sort of break through that ceiling. So they start getting up into that 4 to 10 million until that next plateau.
Yeah. And the book helps people with not only generating leads. That's what many people think about with marketing, but it goes into differentiating your company. Why are you actually different? It goes into real branding. And part of that is creating a sales process. And the sales process should be integrated with your website. Meaning, maybe one of the first steps, as an example, I have a client who does commercial bid build, commercial maintenance, and they also do high-end residential maintenance and high-end residential design build. So they actually have 4 different sales managers for those 4 different departments. Most landscape companies don't have really what I call a funnel on their website that funnels you to that right person. It's usually just one contact form. How can we help you? And then the office manager now needs to call that person and figure out which of the 4 salespeople should that call go to. Whereas in the book, I outline how you can use things like online scheduling to have the customer book a call with the bid build manager, book a call with the commercial maintenance manager. And that ultimately helps the customer get what they want faster.
Yeah, I love that. No, I agree with you 100%. The form, the booking. How I often come across owners who say, "Yeah, I need to build a sales system," and a lot of the time they just focus on, "Oh, I'm just going to go out and hire somebody and maybe work on a job description," but they don't necessarily think through the funnel piece. And I think one of the pieces I always almost like 99% of the time people fail to discuss or think about is developing some type of even a basic CRM system to log and track people coming in through the website or other sources, just so that you can then start taking that next phase in terms of the campaigns. Is that something you talk about in your book?
Yeah, it's a key part of the book. And the sales CRM, we've customized one for landscapers. It's called Lead Wrangler. And I chose the word Wrangler because I think you have to wrangle clients in to an extent. They're kind of wiggly, they're like a right. They might fill out the form and they might have an appointment with you, and then maybe it's really hard to pin them down to finish your estimate or get them to respond to it. And if you don't have a CRM, you're going to have to rely on sticky notes or maybe a spreadsheet or maybe some kind of combination. When you have a CRM dialed in, it allows you to do follow-up marketing. And a key part of this book is helping landscapers get organized to do follow-up marketing. I have a chapter in the book where I talk about 18 touches to make a sale. So for the listeners who do commercial landscape work, you might have a client that's in a 3-year contract. And so you may be aware, they may be frustrated with their current vendor, but it could be another 18 months before they're even thinking about a proposal. So if you have that organized in your CRM, you can send them little touches, whether it's a phone call or a LinkedIn message or a postcard or an email or an invitation to an event. Those 18 touches over time are what I've found is what helps great salespeople stand out. And some people are just magical. They can just keep in their brain hundreds of prospects and know. But I know in my own business, once I got to a certain point, wow, it was really hard to remember all those details. So a lot of what we did in the book is based on what works for my own multi-million-dollar company. And I have a sales team and account managers, and we sell to businesses, and we're all in the long game.
All right. You talk about 18 touches, to potentially, get that prospect across the finish line. I always used to say, 6 to 7 touches. Is it becoming more difficult these days? Are people distracted through, all the noise out there in the media place? What's the difference there between that 6 and 18?
Yeah, I think it could be getting clear on what do you consider a touch. Mm-hmm. And so for me in the book, I explained that it's a combination of both personal and automated. So if I have somebody in my CRM, they would be getting my email marketing, my email newsletter, and they may, in a good scenario, open 20% of those. So maybe if I'm doing a monthly newsletter, they're only going to open 4 or 5 of them in a year. So those could be a touch. And then a more personal touch could be me calling you and leaving a voicemail. Hey, Robert, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that I was at a trade show and I learned this new brine solution that I wanted to discuss with you, or whatever it is, if it was a snow removal client. That's what I consider touches. It could be a marketing touch of an email newsletter, a postcard that I send out that maybe I'm sending it out to hundreds or even thousands of people. That's what I've found in my own marketing is touch. Counting those is how I arrive at 18. What do you consider a touch in your 6?
Maybe it's really just I would say emails or phone calls. Mm-hmm. Or even text messages if I have them. But I always remember when we first got a certain phone service when I started my landscape business, and I think it was probably about the 6th or 7th time where he kept connecting. We said, "Hey, call us at this time." It was something like crazy, like 6 a.m. in the morning. But, just through their perseverance and probably a use of some type of a CRM, they eventually got our business, which was, thousands, probably tens of thousands of dollars. How about when you talk about touches? I know, I've experienced this, or some of my clients have experienced this, where there's either maybe like if they're in a client's in a 3-year contract, so and they're maybe in year 1. So do you give up? Do you keep going, or maybe there's a landscape construction company who says, "Oh, I'm good. I've already got 2 contractors I work with." How do you either using the touch approach or the patience to sort of maybe keep some momentum there?
So in the book, I have a chapter about gold mining, and gold mining is where you're looking in your database for these opportunities. And I really see sales as a matter of prioritization. I'm always going to prioritize. If I have a lead that I could close today, I'm going to focus on getting that lead over the finish line before I follow up with the guy who's in year 1 of 3 for his work. But I'm only going to have so many opportunities that I can close today or this week to focus on. And so then I'm going to move on so that would be my hot list of what are the active leads that I'm trying to close right now. And then my warm list would be, I would put this person you're talking about, somebody that I already have a relationship with, and I may be aware of their situation. It could be that they're in year 1 of 3, and I'm going to follow up with them accordingly. So maybe I'm not following up every month, but maybe they're somebody that I reach out to every 6 months. And then I'm going to move on to my cold list, which is maybe I'm prospecting. I'm looking for new construction that's happening, and I'm trying to get my foot in the door with that relationship. And that's more of a hunting. So you always want to kind of meet people where they're at and send the right message at the right time. And that's where having a good CRM with current information can help you do that. So some people use tasks. I use tasks. So I recommend that people have some automated content, such as like an email newsletter. And then I might set a task to call Robert in October, and I'm going to make sure that my notes from June are up to date with my reason for calling.
Right. Now that makes sense. And you're right. I mean, if you don't have some type of a CRM system or task or maybe even a spreadsheet, then it's going to be really tough for you to distinguish between either the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly, the follow-up person. You talked about earlier about how things are happening so quickly. I think it was at the one of the Apple conferences. How do you when you're writing your book? I mean, that must be at the back of your mind. And when things look at AI and chat and Claude, and things are changing so quickly. How are you addressing that?
One of the ways I'm personally addressing it is I'm always experimenting personally. Like I use Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini every day, and I'm using them for different reasons, and I'm testing what's going on. And then I have some key sources of information, one of which is Google. So Google recently published a guide to AI optimization. So this is, I mean, Google doesn't share a lot, but when they do share something, we need to pay attention. And so I've gone to 2 AI conferences this year. One is from my business coach. The other one is from a 350 person company that builds AI tools. And I'm like, wow, these people. So I'm constantly, it's a combination of podcasts. I have some podcasts that I listen to, some magazines like Search Engine Journal. It's really an online magazine. And then I'm in a mastermind with other digital agency owners. So it's a combination of like absorbing information and then personally tinkering and figuring it out. And one thing I'm continually grateful for is I then get to figure out, okay, what makes sense for landscape companies? I don't need to figure out the whole internet for every industry and everybody. I get to filter it through what makes sense for landscape companies, snow removal companies. And it feels to me, it's actually really exciting. I mean, I'll be honest, for years, it was kind of boring how little stuff changed. Like it was kind of slow and steady, and this is what you do. And I'm like, all right. And I'm more excited about the work I'm doing now than really the last time I thought about it was like 15 years ago when I was really just starting out, and I was like, how does it work? And I was going to all these conferences, and I'm never done learning, but I figured out enough to do the work for people. But when I didn't know, I was very hungry. And right now there's so much there's so much to learn. And for me, that's exciting to me.
Yeah, it's good when you're doing something a little bit more exciting. How when you talk about cloud and SEO stuff, what should landscape companies be doing now, just to sort of make sure they're staying visible?
Well, one of the things with getting found in AI tools like Claude or Gemini, ChatGPT, and often many people are overlooking Google AI mode is really the most used AI tool. It's still used way more than all of those other tools. It's really extracting information from other sources and serving it up. So when you go to ChatGPT or one of these tools, it's looking at your website. So your website is in ChatGPT queries is typically websites are like 50% of the data that's being sourced. So a lot of what's worked for SEO is still very relevant for what works in getting found in AI. One of the things that's become even more important is reviews. People might ask, I think one of the things that's different about people using AI tools versus Google, let's just say 2+ years ago, is they might just previously Google, landscape designer, Phoenix, Arizona. Now they might be planning a really long thread and uploading photos, and they might prompt their AI tool with, here's a photo of a landscape I really like that I saw in Phoenix. What are the plants in this photo? And how much would a patio with these plants cost? And AI is like analyzing it and like instantaneously, like these are these plants and we're finding this pricing information. And eventually they arrive at, okay, find 3 contractors that are highly rated. And now it's finding 3 contractors that are highly rated. So again, even though they might not go and look at those reviews on your Google listing, wow, they're playing a huge impact in you showing up in this AI tool. So to summarize that, I a lot of it hasn't changed. I think what's changed is how people are prompting, how they're searching, and how it's served up. But the sources of that are still very relevant to SEO. Your website, your Google reviews, your listings online, and then when possible, getting mentioned on other websites. So getting mentioned on a podcast like this is really powerful for me. Thank you for having me. Right. The internet is now like, hey, Jack Jostes is mentioned on the, Commercial Landscaper podcast. And we know that Robert Klinkenbeard has run all these companies for many years, and it's associating me with you, and then you're part of NALP, and we're both listed on NALP. And so it adds credibility to both of us.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we have way more than I do. So, but I think that's good to share with the people listening to this call here. Changing topics slightly. I think you mentioned earlier about landscape companies. We're sending out proposals. Hope we're doing a good job with the presentation of those proposals. I see a lot of people really struggling in that space. But once you've sent over that proposal, what do you see as some of the best practices, or how you can stand out in that follow-up?
Well, my number one tip would be to present your proposal instead of just sending it. And in particular, I think if we're talking about high-end residential, present it over Zoom. Chances are you have two working professionals who could say yes to a 20-minute Zoom meeting in the middle of the day to review your landscape proposal with you, right? So I think a lot of people lose the sale by just sending it, because if we meet, I can watch you have sticker shock, right, and say, oh, wow, this is a lot more than I thought it was. And now I can work through that, and we could talk about phases, or I could remove certain things, and I have a much better chance. In some cases, you can't present in commercial, but a lot of times you can. A lot of times you could meet with a property manager and say, hey, would it be okay if we scheduled 15 minutes on Zoom to review this together?
Yeah.
A lot of people would say yes to that. Yeah. So that's my first tip, is to present instead of send. And then if possible, get a next steps call. Hey, great. It's normal that, people typically review this. They have lots of questions. Let's go ahead and schedule a follow-up so we can talk through any changes you might need to the proposal. And now I've got a decision call, and that's going to double my chance of closing the sale. But if I can't get those things, one of the things that really helps you stand out is to send your proposal with a Loom video. And so depending on how savvy your customer is, meaning how much they know the landscape industry, they might be really confused by your proposal. They may or may not have looked at one. A commercial buyer is probably more experienced and knowledgeable to know what to look at. But in any case, a quick video walking them through it makes it feel a little more personal. It helps them understand. And then follow up. At a minimum, following up to make sure they got the proposal with a phone call or a text. Because I can tell you, on the buying end, I recently had to do, unfortunately, Robert, I had to do a major plumbing project at home. And the company I was meeting with had a similar name to a lot of landscapers. It was some variation of Myers. Okay. So I'm meeting with Myers, and coincidentally, I actually have a different HVAC company with Myers spelled in a different way. So the HVAC is Meyers. This company is Meiers. Okay. But their vehicles say M and M. Right. And then the proposal comes from some weird name that I've never heard of. And it's coming from Service Titan. And it says, I don't know, whatever their LLC is. And I honestly didn't even see it. And when I was searching my email history for M&M, which is on their card, their vehicle that was in my driveway, none of their proposals mentioned the words M and M. So I couldn't find it. So luckily they texted me and they're like, hey, Jack, did you get our proposal? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And I'm a ideal customer for them. I get a lot of email as the CEO of a company, right? So luckily they're like, hey, we're going to resend it, and I want you to make sure you got it. And it went into some weird spam folder. So truly, like, following up, did you get the proposal? I see a lot of companies get lost here. They have Service Titan, LMN, whatever software, they're sending it out, and they have it in some weird name that the customer has never interacted with. Right. So that's at a minimum. And then I think you got to call people on the phone. Call them and talk with them, and ask an open-ended question. Robert, you did get the proposal. How do you feel it meets the needs that we discussed? I'm going to ask you a question to get you to open up to me, instead of, because if I say, Robert, did you get the proposal? Okay, well, let me know if you have any questions. Bye. That's just poor salesmanship. I need to ask you, if I get you on the phone, I'm going to ask a real question of like, hey, how do you feel about this? And you're ideally going to say something like, well, I liked this part, but I didn't like this part, and I'm going to take it from there. So a combination of automated and then also personal. So really my whole book is about, I love automation. I think automation is amazing. And the human touch is so important, because ultimately we're trying to establish a relationship with someone. And the more that they feel like, okay, this person actually cares about me in this project, and they're gonna be there if something goes wrong, the more that customer is gonna feel like they should move forward with you. Whereas if it's entirely automated and it's confusing or clunky, it's a big turnoff. Because we've all been burned in business. We've all been burned from people we've hired or vendors, or they're probably looking for a new landscaper because the last people didn't do a good job.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, avenues you can go down regarding the proposal piece. I mean, I would always say to them, hey, what are some of the things you need to know for you to make a decision today when I present it to you? Trying to find out if they're the decision maker, first of all, and, is there certain things that they're looking for in the proposal before I actually sit there face to face. But I think that face to face for sure is the best way to do it. So how about just in terms of quality of proposals, asking the right questions? How does that play into just making sure the proposal is spot on?
So can you say that again? You're asking about asking.
Yeah, just in terms of, making sure you're delivering the proposal that meets their needs. I think sometimes people don't often listen when they're supposedly hearing what the client needs, but how do you sort of verify what they're truly looking for?
Well, one of the things that I do, and I think we've all been to restaurants where they get the order right, and we've been to restaurants where they don't. The restaurants who get the order right repeat it back to you at the end. Mm-hmm. Robert, what I'm hearing is you'd like a burger with no cheese, cooked medium, with a side of fries, and you'd like a side of ranch. Did I get all of that right? And you say, yes, thanks, Jack. Now, if I didn't ask that and I brought you a cheeseburger and you don't eat cheese, and you just told me how you don't eat cheese, this actually happened at a restaurant for my family recently, right? You're like, oh man, you didn't get it right. So I think the number one thing, I actually recommend pen and paper. Personally, I take notes on paper, and at the end of it, I recap what we talked about. And then one of the things that I help my clients do is I have a meeting follow-up AI prompt where, so you're using Fireflies in the meeting right now. If I were selling over Zoom, I personally do use Fireflies. And then I have a AI prompt where I put the transcript in, and it creates a follow-up email, and I send it to the client. So this demonstrates that we were listening. And the email asks, hey, let me know if you see anything that I missed. And now what this does is usually I nail it and I read what the AI wrote for me. This is the most important part, is I look at my paper notes, I compare it against the AI notes, then I send it. And I'm usually nailing it. But I can tell you that I've bought landscaping. And one time I met with a landscaper. We're walking through my yard. He's giving me all these amazing ideas, and dude isn't writing anything down. And it's kind of making me a little anxious because I'm like, wow, how is he going to remember all this stuff? And sure enough, I get to proposal and it's missing like 30% of what I asked for. And so I let him know, like, hey, we talked about having a walkway here, and we talked about this, and he never got it to me in a proposal, and he probably missed out on like $10,000 worth of business because I'm just like, I don't want to tell you a third time.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
So I think whatever your note-taking method is, I think AI note takers are becoming commonplace, and that even in an in-person meeting, you could say to somebody, hey, I use an AI note taker. It helps me focus on you and then also remember all the details. Is that okay that I use an AI note taker during this?
Yeah, I recommend the same thing as well. You're 100% spot on.
And then it also, when you standardize it, like what I said, my whole team uses the same meeting note follow-up prompt. And this has had a surprising operational impact, Robert. My tech people, I guess is what most people like. The people who work on SEO at my company are usually not client facing, but I have a guy, he's worked with me for 7 years, and he said, hey, since we started doing this, I've never felt more connected and in the loop about what's happening with the client. Because it's easy now that all of our notes are consistent. And as a CEO, I can open all those little records and quickly read the notes and know what to look for. Whereas when everyone did it their own way, it was like, I don't know, I got to kind of decipher this person's notes versus this person's notes. And I have little things in there, by the way, of like red flags. Is the client frustrated? Thing, and the AI can pick up on that, and I can read it real quick. And that way, if it escalates to me, I can say, hey, yes, I did notice that last time you talked, you brought up this concern. Is that right? And they're usually really impressed. Like, yeah, I did bring that up. How did you know? And I'm like, well, I've got my notes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, just make sure, this is for the audience, just make sure that you don't have the settings set where it is automatically sent to attendees.
Yes.
Especially if you do interviews and you're talking about the candidate afterwards.
Oh yeah. So fun horror story. So I'm in a mastermind with some other digital agency owners. And the horror story is that one of the owners of the company got on the Zoom early with his employee, and they're talking about the client and what a jerk he is and how he's always late and all this stuff. And their clients are these like attorneys. And so the meeting ends and the notes go instantly to that client about what a jerk he is and how late he is. And they get a call. And the other partner was that there were two partners, and he said the call was like this. Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would fire me too, sir. Yes. I agree that. So yeah. You got to be careful with that for sure.
Yes. Last question, Jack. If a commercial landscape company were listening today, what would be the one thing you would recommend they implement from your book?
The one thing that I would implement from the book for a commercial landscape company is specialty pages. And what I mean by this is many commercial landscape companies simply say that they do commercial landscaping. And well, what kind? Do you do municipalities? Do you do HOAs? Do you do apartments? Do you do hospitals? Do you do hotels? Do you do Class A real estate? Do you do shopping centers, right? There's all these different types of commercial work. And the hotel wants to know, they don't really care that you can do a shopping center because they see their hotel as different. And so on. So the number one thing, and is an HOA commercial, Robert? I would argue that it is.
I would agree.
I think it is because you're selling to the sales process is largely commercial. So that would be my number one tip from the book, is to build out pages on your website. So that way, when people put in their AI tool, I'm the property manager of a 300 unit HOA in, whatever part of Michigan. I need a landscape company that can do ongoing maintenance and snow removal. Find me 3 to 5 companies that are highly rated. If your website doesn't specifically spell out that you do HOAs, the chance of you showing up in that result is very low. So that would be my number one takeaway. And the clients of mine that are doing that are not only getting leads through their website for that, but they also use it as a sales tool when they're following up. They can send that HOA, hey, here's our HOA page. It has testimonials of HOAs. It has photos of HOAs. And then when I'm selling to the apartment complex people, here are the apartment complexes we've managed, and here are apartment complex testimonials.
Cool. That's great. Great advice. So, Jack, when is the book out, and how can people get a copy of the book?
Yeah, the book is available. We're still finalizing the exact date. Let's just say you can get it or pre-order it right now at landscapersguide.com/books. So let's put a link in the show notes, but the podcast that I run is called Landscapers Guide. That's ultimately the name of my book is the Landscapers Guide. And get it at landscapersguide.com/books.
Awesome, Jack. Well, thank you for your knowledge, everything you shared today. Hopefully, people were taking some great notes for this. But good luck with the book launch, and I'm excited to read a copy.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you having me here, and I'll send you one as soon as we're done.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I hope you're walking away with some great nuggets that you can immediately apply to your business, whether you're in leadership, operations, or you just want to show up every day with that Iron Man mindset. Remember, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentional moves, bold conversations, and surround yourself with the right people. If you found value today, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with others. And again, don't forget to check out wilson-360.com. We have digital courses from account management, operational excellence, leadership development, or some of the other coaching packages we offer. Anyway, a huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'll leave with this. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day.